the kids? Why are the kids, like, if the dog went after the kids, first of all, it's very rare but not impossible that the dog is going to do anything to the death in that at that point. Like, very rare that dogs are vicious killers in that sense. Sure, they can get protective over food. They can get protective over their pack. But you can see some real messes that bull terriers have gotten themselves into with small children over the years. In other places. It'd be nice to know a little bit more. So it's interesting. It's good to bring up because the people in the community and individuals that know him need to start talking about it as well if there's a lot of truth to it. Because they would know the dog, you would think. Yeah, Chelsea Gray, you don't believe it was necessarily anything to do with the kids, perhaps hidden for another reason? Yeah, it's hard to put a finger on it right now. I mean, I'm just trying to talk ourselves through this. And I mean, it's so hard to... There's more to this. I have a hard time thinking that the dog just took 2 kids out and that's it. We've got to find the dog and this is going to be solved. It's not that simple. I wonder what the other reason could be. Just simple. I don't know what the other reason would be. Everything is so bizarre when it comes to them. I wonder if Meadow was, socialized around the dog. Justin has young kids and a newborn. Would he have a vicious dog? Though I've heard there is a dog fighting in the area. I don't think it was a dog, but a dog named DM. Yeah, Daniel Martel. Oh yeah, I'm still thinking about that. It's just this all of this talk has me thinking in that sense. They got home and got out of a vehicle. Janie came out and the dog got through the gate. Lily screamed, provoking a dog attack, in your opinion, Robin says. And then what? And then what? That's when they turned murderous? They said, holy fuck, the dog's murderous and we're going to turn murderous. So they then threw Jack back there to get his. And then they just going to dispose all together as a big old disposal party. I don't see it. I mean... A dog goes after a kid and you're around, everybody's going to know about it. It's going to be very difficult to ignore what's going on in that home. Everything is paper thin. It's impossible not to hear everybody's conversation or hear everything that goes on. So your first instinct isn't going to go, oh, right on. Finish him off there, Rufus. I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, it's possible because there's so many lies. Like, it's for me to say it's true or not is just contradictory. I'm just trying to... I can't see it because even these evil son of a bitches would straight up call the ambulance and find reasons to put the blame back on Malaya anyway in that sense, right? Like it takes a lot for the dog to actually take the life of the child or toddler. It's not a quick thing by any means. So even wounding the child to such a point where it eventually expired because it was mortally wounded, it'd be difficult to even swallow that in this situation. Something else happened in this sense. I still, in my mind, it's more likely in my mind that Daniel used some sort of concoction and gave it to the kids on purpose to try to settle them down, to try to zombify them probably. Like, why wouldn't he? There's already that amount of substances around. And it helped him out. He was left to all of this intensive parenting. Yeah, Jen R., they would have some wounds if they tried to stop a dog attack. Well, I think that's what people are insinuating, that they never stopped it. I have a hard time believing that. Like, we're making the jump to her taking out soil. I'm just talking about it, right? It's a bit of a jump. There's some leaps in here. And I'm not at all trying to get you to think that that's what happened. I'm just trying to make it make sense. But there's more to it. The thing is that there's 2 children missing in past. We know that they didn't wander off. It's never-ending deception by way of the last 3 adults to see the kids. The weakest of those links, in my opinion, is going to be Malaya. She's separated from the other 2 at this point. That's one thing that justice has on its side. If they had a math-making operation going on, they would have wanted to get rid of that before the police got there. I think that's what they're under the influence. Thursday night speculation. I don't think so, Mayflower. I don't think so. All of the things that they would have to manufacture it isn't illegal to have. All right? All of the precursors and chemicals and containers you can get at your local hardware store. You could just clean your kitchen and you would never know the fucking difference to begin with. You have to have a somewhat clean environment in order not to contaminate any of your batches, and that's not here. They had a math consuming operation for sure, Ilya, no doubt. For sure they're consumers. And we know Chance is their dealer in that sense. Annie, are you on crack, by the way? Annie Green Gables? It's probably Kent. I don't know who that is. They always leave the stupidest fucking messages. I swear. You're Robin, yes, more likely that D is the one my thoughts from the start, but scenarios run through my mind. Yeah, same here. No, helicopter grandmother. There's not any other people involved. Everybody who is involved are right here at the house. There's no need to bring in strangers that you don't know about and try to tie them into a situation that you're not clear about to help satisfy whatever it is you can't figure out. No, everything that has to do with Jack and Lily going missing is right here at the house between Malaya and Daniel and that stupid old bitch Janie. And if they were making any amounts of substance, they wouldn't be in such dire straits, okay? You wouldn't be in financial dire straits. So you want to talk about having a lab and producing this crystal. you do it on a personal level with a few boxes at one time, one batch, and it's good for your personal use, and there's still a certain cost that goes into that. But the labs that you're insinuating or imagining, you can produce a larger quantity of that, like out of 50-gallon drums or larger containers, something you can pressurize. But no, that's not happening here because these fucking idiots wouldn't be so poor in that sense. Now, they're major consumers of the substance. They're already hooked on that. Yeah, it doesn't sound Mayflower. I think you're confused. Math makers want to isolate what they call pseudoephedrine. All right, if you're not giving babies pseudoephedrine in baby formula, there's nothing in baby formula really, or maybe there is actually from Nestle. Who knows what chemical that they're trying to get out of it, but it's not. There's easy ways to make the math. Right? It has to do with kerosene or any sort of fuel, some pressure, some crushed up pseudoephedrine pills, which are things like hay fever pills, Sudafed and things like that. And I don't even have to share the nitrate. There's also a different chemical, a couple of them, but you can get them pretty much anywhere. First aid packs. That's just the dirty way of making it. Any of the real chemicals that, like, if you were to compare it to something like Breaking Bad, those chemicals aren't easy, especially in Canada, to obtain. So that's why you have to go to alternates. Well, I forgot the lithium from the lithium batteries in there too. Why the F is anyone... Why the F is there a board missing on the bottom of that wall? You can see the studs. What the fuck? Well, that's just the little breezeway. That's the mudroom in the front. That's separate from the trailer. Replacing a board there. Sometimes you gotta replace them. Looks like old chipboard. It's rotten. It's got to change it up a little bit. Oh, what the fuck's going on out there? Looks like a real project. Belinda, is that a deadbolt on the front inside door? Let me see here. I'm assuming that's the door that's broken. Is that a deadbolt on the outside? Looks... I don't know if you... I've got all kinds of filters on, so I'm looking from across the room. I see the door knob. The window. Well, you have a window on your front fucking doors beyond me. I guess my mom does too. I don't get that. Are you afraid of the bear coming in and fucking doing a better job at the woodwork than you guys? What do we got down here? A couple little fish tanks and a Tim Hortons cup. That's the smoking section out here, it looks like. Well, look at that. There's a plastic container that's large enough to hold a small child. I wonder how many of those he's got around. Let's have a look here. Let me just make this a little smaller. Yeah, so I'm still open to what... Like, there's a reason for... There's a reason why it was brought up in the first place. And it probably does. I was just thinking that it's more likely that Janie was out there covering up all of the tire tracks and all of the fresh tire tracks from all of the activity coming and going throughout the May 1st into May 2nd. The Bradley Wong sighting traffic. And I mean, that's probably true as well. Because she also said mud. Tells me it was wet. If I'm to believe her.
Children, and when it happens, a lot of the time they're in shock, and Daniel was no different than that.
I was the head of the helicopters and head of the drones and stuff like that, screaming as loud as I can, and just until my throat hurt, running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back,
it was too cold for anything. I live here, really crappy Friday a.m., crappy Thursday night. Yeah, you can just go back and see what the temperatures got down to. It's actually not that bad, but cold enough for hypothermia in children outside for any extended period of time. It would be trouble, but I don't know. Right now, at minus 20, it would be for sure death. But around the freezing mark, yeah, it'd be getting that way. It'd just take a little longer. But, like, first of all, the children would have had to have gotten out in the first place. They didn't get out on their own. They didn't expire just outside the door. And when Danny came to get a snack out of the cupboard, there was 2 dead kids out on the back patio. No, although it might come up in court as a defense. But listen, it has to be something that's going to necessitate these child unalivers. There's something that happened from their very own hands that would necessitate the cover-up and the lie and the conspiracy, because they are not going down for this. And that doesn't occur to a person. You don't reach out and choose to commit a felony for something that was out of your control, an accident in that sense. This was purposeful, it was vicious, and it was violent. And it happened to 2 children. Or I could be completely wrong, and Daniel wanted to be some sort of cocktail waitress and was sedating the kids with some sort of substance. That would account for them both overdosing. And him being responsible for providing the substances that they expired on, in that sense. Now, that must have been a crazy, if that's true, then that would have been one hell of a crazy experiment gone awry. Was it his first time doing it? Why did he do it? And what went wrong this time? If it was something that you had been doing up to that point, how did your measurements get so askew that they led to their deaths? So I don't even believe that necessarily. But I mean, if you're thinking about what would account for it's difficult for us, right? It's difficult for us on the outside to imagine all of the different ways. I'm just thinking of things that would have been common in this. I didn't expect, for example, the Trezell West and the Orson West situation to turn out, and that was the answer. Like, I guess, how are we ever going to know the truth when it was withheld from us? We're not really going to know the truth. We can just know enough about what had happened based off what the children said, and we weren't privy to any of that information. And it was difficult for us to picture the information that they found out about those children, is what I'm saying. They were including and having the children carry out violent acts as a way of keeping them in line in that sense. With Jacqueline, here's a 30-year-old woman, and she's got all kinds of kids, and the majority of them are foster. And of course, she's doing it for the money in that sense. They had no emotional bond to these children. They were just providing a bed and living off the money that the government provided them and the stipends for doing so. Welcome to my life. Robin, also we know how hysterical Janie gets over her boys. So maybe Ron knew. She was worried on pins and needles that morning waiting for the call. I don't know about that. I do know that she's lying. But what is she hiding? Heather, I think we know a little bit more at 9 months than we did before. I think we've unfortunately gotten to a fairly solid picture about what's likely happened here. Lori, there's nothing solid here. What's solid is the levels of deception, you fools. What does that tell you? That's the only solid lead in all of this, is the fact that these assholes don't want to answer a fucking question. Doesn't that tell you something? What? Are you on fucking crack, Wolfie? Janie using the rake, in my opinion, was the bootprints. There was one print left. What? No, you're still stuck in believing what all of these fucking idiots are saying to you. What? How the fuck would you even pull that? As though the kids just walked over there? Don't even have to pull from that, Wolfie. Janie using the rake was the bootprints. What would it fucking matter? This is where the kids lived. There should be footprints and boot prints all over the show. Them pulling a boot print in the moment is trying to compare old from new to try to pick out what direction the kids voluntarily left the house, which we don't believe went. The fact that there's just one boot print in amongst all of the freshly raked gravel should be a sign that it got imprinted there after the gravel was raked, not raked around. That's a waste for your mind to even go there. But I'm not going to come down too hard on you. These fucking Red Bull's making me grumpy. She hears everything in that trailer exactly, you know. We're not trying to pull what's true and what's not from the things that they say. We know that they're being purposefully obtuse. They're talking around each and every point. The things that they say and introduce to us do mean something, but in a double entendre sort of way, a double meaning. Well, if it's true that Daniel was in the car with Jack and Lily when MBM was doing 6 weeks of laundry at Patty's, how many hours would that take? There's no way in hell that a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old... First of all, that's kind of a bullshit story to begin with. They're probably constantly fighting, and she's setting up to leave. All of the clothes that are already packed in those garbage bags are packed to go to a different place, I would expect. Possibly. I'm not saying... I don't want to tell you that you're wrong and I'm right here. But I mean, Patty didn't know the last time she saw them. So you're traveling around with all of these clothes that were just out at Patty's to get washed. It makes no sense for them to pile up clothes for that long in the first place. Not saying that they didn't. Maybe they did and they're fucking lazy. Who knows? You imagine all of those garbage bags filled with laundry? Like, why don't you take it easy on yourself and give yourself a laundry day? They don't go through that many clothes. Their washing machine's out in the front lawn. Can't you run an extension cord to it, freak? Could have used the washer spinner out in Janie's RV. Yeah, there's something with the stories. That all comes from the paperwork in that sense. That just comes from the story that she told the responding officer for the report. When they cross-referenced it with Patty, she didn't know when the fuck was the last time that she saw... Malaya and Daniel was, let alone that day for, a full day of laundry. Malaya wanted to play it as though she just got back from Patty's doing laundry, and that was to account for a portion of her timeline. Well, that's all up in the air. That was unverifiable for us. So keep your mind open. It wasn't a storyline that rang true. It wasn't corroborated by Patty. In fact, it was the opposite. What's up, Ginger's mom? All we have heard is one conflicting story after another. Everything we've been told by those that are talking are lies and self-preservation, right? Which should be a strong indicator. Yeah, Michelle's Red Bull is so bad for you. That's why I got the small can. Could have got the big can. And it's expensive as all, you know what. But I like it because I get chatty on it. When I sit around here not talking to anybody all day, sometimes you need some motivation. Then when you can't shut me up. The Red Bull raging, right? I've come accustomed to it, though. I don't rage so much anymore over it like I used to. Now I just get chatty Cathy. There was bootprints everywhere from the children on the side of the hill. I think the driveway was worked on for another reason, says Chelsea. Right. Yeah, it was. I think so, too. Like, it's going to be pretty hard for Janie not to hear each and every little sound, especially in the middle of the country, where things are just so quiet to begin with. You hear everything. Everything stands out. Especially the doors opening and closing, gates, animals out the back. You could hear the chickens. You could hear the wind blow. Listen, just go and sit in your old junky car. Granted, when all of your weather seals and everything, like in a brand new car, yeah, you can isolate out sound, no problem. But I'm not saying that the weather stripping in this old RV is even remotely there in the first place. Listen, it's so thin. It's just a sheet of aluminum between you and the outside world. You're essentially out there. You're out there in the elements. You're going to hear everything. And Mike's right. Janie hates this script. But she thinks that that's working for her in all of this. All of her truth has to do with what it was she was doing at that moment in time or any moment in time. Like it's already a preemptive defense as opposed to anything focused on the children. And we reiterate that time and time again, but it goes far beyond that. That says so much. Yeah, it is cold down in Texas, Taze. Yeah, it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit down there. I heard you guys are the same. They're talking about how engineered this ice storm is across the U.S. Go check out Jimmy Dore's upload, Taze. Yeah, Patty didn't confirm if she saw the children on that Wednesday. I'd have to go back and check, Ilya. Lori, you're saying you meant the police need to go harder on them under pressure, people crack. Yeah, Lori, just to tell you, though, that's going to happen. You don't play that game beforehand. Well, you can if you have enough evidence.